The part of the brain that you do volitional thinking with is not in charge of your physical functions. It's in charge with what you do with your body to influence the external environment, but it is not in charge through direct wiring hookups to the internal environment. I have many students that come to see me that are very much involved in self-analysis. Now, the part of the brain that we think with is the part that permits us to ask questions or to issue statements. But it does not permit us in itself for my arm to raise up like that. It has to signal that I want my arm in the upper position, and many, many muscles throughout the body go to work. The electromyographic readings all over the body which show activity. In other words, a simple maneuver is enormously complex from the machine aspect of a human body and function. And yet it's very simple. If I throw up a ball and catch it, it's very simple to do that. But I have to throw the ball up and I have to catch it. As soon as I start to go by the procedure of getting there, we're in the way and we're in all sorts of trouble. The part of the brain which asks a question is also the part of the brain which issues a statement. When I speak to you, I have something to say. In order for me to say it, I'm using articulation. I'm using tongue, lips, laryngeal activity, respiratory activity, body language. I'm using facial expression. Many, many parts of me are working based on conditioned response to stimuli. Now, the very fact that I have something to say is making it very easy for me to do it. I merely present my case to you. I very frequently will take a student who is turning inwards, and I'll ask him to give me a very complex discourse on any subject, but a complex one, and analyze his respiration, phonation. In other words, question himself as he's making the speech. Very quickly, he has nothing to say. But I have people on brass instruments doing this all the time. Well, you can't do that. In other words, you influence the phenomena, even the things that are wrong. You don't make them right. You abandon them. You substitute new habits to, in other words, you don't fight old ones to correct them. You substitute new habits for the old ones. The new neural pathways form. The old one, through lack of restimulation, finally is quieted down as the new one develops. We have two types of nerves. We have motor nerves and we have sensory nerves. You all know the sensors. When I talk, you hear. That's an auditory nerve. That's a sensory nerve. You want to feel whether the water's hot or cold, you put your finger on it. There you have a sense of temperature. You have the tactile sense. You have the various senses that carry messages inward. Motor nerves are quite different. A nerve in a human body is a one-way street. A motor nerve carries a message from the brain to the effector, to the muscle that is going to contract. A sensor carries a nerve in the opposite direction. In electronics, we use a wiring hookup where we can send a message along a wire either way. You cannot do that with a human nerve. In other words, it goes one way only. Now, we play through to the motor systems, not the sensors. The emphasis in the musician must be always on the art of communication, so that one part of the brain is acting like a player piano roll, so the keyboards are stimulated into their proper function. We don't go to the correction of the keyboards, we go to the correction of the controls. It's like the study of machine systems. All machine systems have controls. All controls have to be programmed. When there is a malfunctioning embouchure, first you have to go to the brain, which is controlling the embouchure, and you don't correct the shape of the lip as the dominant factor. You make sure there's a musical message that's supposed to come out of the lip so that we'll have something for the lip to say. Proper form in itself is not the end product. In other words, proper form, if you take for granted that the student has a musical thought, then he'll function with proper form. But many students at that time do not have a proper thought. They're going by the feel and the shape of the lip, and they have nothing. You must make sure that there's always a sound in the head that instead of registering as vocal cords here and sound, will register as vocal cords here and sound. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. It's part of an art form. Dum diddle da dum. Da dum. It's just another voice. For the lip to have something to say, it has to be always in the brain to be in the lip. You cannot take for granted, those of you that teach or those of you that play, that it's in the lip because you might have thought of it a minute before you started playing. As you play, you have to sing. You do not sing with the vocal cords, you sing with the lips, but you sing. Very, very frequently will ask my students to sing a part and then play it. Now, many times they'll sing it, and when they go to play it, the mind blanks out. They've sung it a moment before, but they're not singing in the brain at the time they're playing, and as a result, there is still improper guidance. At that time, I will make up words. In other words, if they're playing, I make them sing, how dry I am. Then I'll have them actually concentrate on the words and pitch. Invariably, it begins to come with greater ease, and they'll find entrances that they could not get a moment before will come quite easily when they stop trying to develop the attack as a formalized procedure, but substitute the pronunciation of a word. The whole psychology of it changes, and the organization cerebrally alters.